The Discovery, Chapter 14, Part 2. Midnight released David and allowed the Dark Princess room to work. Luna quickly filled the gap, and her horn turned a brilliant azure blue. She stepped over to David and touched her horn to his head. Almost immediately, he went limp. David's grunting and heavy breathing stilled, and the pained grimace that adorned his face just moments before was finally gone. Midnight wasted no time and quickly grabbed his wrist with her hoof. After a moment of searching, she found his pulse. She then pressed her ear against his mouth, waiting for the sensitive fur in her ear to be disturbed by David's breath. 1 second passed, and with it every emotion Midnight could possibly comprehend all flooded her mind one by one. Her thoughts spiraled out of control as she waited. Fear, panic, anxiety, and a melting pot of other emotions battled each other for dominance in her frantic mind within the course of only a second. Finally, Midnight felt the telltale signs of breathing, and her ear twitched as David finally exhaled. A moment later, he inhaled, and Midnight felt 1,000 times lighter. Midnight breathed a sigh of relief and sat back on her haunches. The royal sisters sat down on either side of her, and 2 large wings, one light and one dark, wrapped themselves around her.
How did this happen to him?
Celestia asked.
I don't know. 1 second he was fine, just talking with us like nothing was wrong. Then the next...
Midnight trailed off.
Let's get him to bed. Shining Armor should be back soon with the castle doctor. We'll have him take a look.
Luna announced. Celestia wrapped her golden magic around David's body and lifted him into the air. She paused for a moment to ensure he was still asleep, and that her magic was having no adverse effects on him, before moving him over to the couch. Midnight trailed along beside her, her face painted with worry as the unconscious human was finally lowered onto the couch. The room fell silent, and all eyes fell onto David as he slept. After a few minutes, Twilight walked over to Midnight's side.
Midnight? I have no idea what went wrong. I swear to you, I would never hurt David. You know I wouldn't. I'm so sorry.
Twilight finished weakly.
What could have happened? Why would a migraine relief spell cause him so much pain?
Midnight thought out loud, her eyes still trained on David's sleeping form.
I'm not sure. I've never seen a creature react like that before. I'd have to do dozens of tests before I know for sure. When he wakes up, we'll ask him if he's okay with that, because I'm sure his Tartar's not.
Midnight said. Her voice was cold and low.
Midnight,
Twilight started, only to be cut off by Midnight.
Princess, I understand what you were trying to do. I'm not mad at you. I'm upset that he's hurt, and I can't do anything to help him.
Midnight said through clenched teeth.
I'm so sorry.
Twilight said dejectedly. Twilight walked away from Midnight and David just as Shining Armor arrived with the castle doctor. The doctor in question was an older-looking stallion. His coat was a dark brown, and his mane and tail were a silvery blonde due to his age. He wore a white medical coat around his barrel, and had a pair of spectacles adorning his amber eyes.
Thank you for coming so quickly, Dr. Winnie.
Celestia addressed the stallion. Of course, Your Highness, it's my job after all. Now, where's the human? He asked, his voice clean and professional.
David's on the couch, over here.
Midnight answered, motioning to the doctor to follow her. She quickly led him to David, and Dr. Winnie immediately set to checking David's vitals. So, what happened exactly? Dr. Winnie asked, while he checked David's blood pressure and pulse.
We're not sure. 1 minute we were talking about the play, the next, David had a headache. And when I tried to use some magic to help him with the pain, it made things 100 times worse. Princess Luna had to put him to sleep to stop the pain.
Twilight answered, her tone taking a remorseful edge. Would it be safe to say that magic caused this then, perhaps? He mused.
Normally, I would agree, but he's been living with Midnight for the last 2 months, and he's never had something like this happen. Has he, Midnight?
Twilight answered.
No, he's never reacted poorly to magic before. Then again, I never really used any spells on him other than a sleep spell back when he first got here, and the occasional levitation spell.
Midnight replied. Has he had serious headaches in the past? Maybe not something this serious, but something worth noting, perhaps.
He's had headaches and migraines before, but nothing this extreme.
Midnight said, her brow furrowed in thought. I see. I still know so little about his species, so it's hard for me to come up with any kind of solid diagnosis. Dr. Winnie thought aloud. What if it was something he ate? Maybe his species can have some kind of allergic reaction to some of the food in Equestria. Shining Armor chimed in.
He didn't eat anything out of the ordinary today, and he's never had a reaction like this to any food before. So that can't be it.
Midnight answered. Dr. Winnie stepped away from David and turned to face the rest of the ponies in the room. Well, the good news is that he seems to be in perfect health, at least physically. His pulse is normal, his blood pressure seems normal, and nothing else seems out of the ordinary for his species. According to those charts Princess Twilight gave us a few weeks ago, everything seems to be in order. Could you perhaps be more specific as to what exactly led up to the casting of the migraine spell? What exactly happened? Dr. Winnie asked.
Well, we watched the play. Nothing out of the ordinary happened there. Then, while we were walking back in the hall, we were talking about something. It was something about the leaves during the fall. Shining, didn't you mention his friends?
Cadence answered, her muscles crunched up in thought. Yeah, he mentioned one of his friends and how he would have loved to see the leaves changing during fall. Shining recollected.
Right, thank you, Shiny. If I recall right, we talked about his friends, and then he complained about the pain to Midnight while the rest of us came into the room.
Cadence finished. And has he spoken about his friends before? The doctor mused.
Very little. He doesn't like to talk about them very much. Every time I brought them up, he just shot me down the first chance he got.
Midnight answered. Luna followed up quickly.
He blames himself for their deaths. He has struggled for the last few months to put that behind him. His dreams are haunted by their memory most nights. Does he seem rather distant when they come up in conversation? Almost as if he's reminiscing or lost in thought?
Dr. Winnie asked. Now
that you mention it, yeah. At least recently he has.
Midnight answered. Perhaps he suffers from survivor's guilt. While it isn't very common, having a mental breakdown somewhat akin to what you've described is possibly a symptom. I've had several patients with similar reactions to far less perilous situations. Dr. Winnie explained.
Are you saying that her magic somehow triggered a mental breakdown?
Midnight asked. It could be possible. Tell me, Princess, did you even finish the spell? Or did David react before you finished? Dr. Winnie asked.
Actually no. I didn't even get halfway through the spell.
Twilight said, perking up slightly. Well, if that's the case, then it's also possible that what happens could have been caused by a chemical imbalance in his brain due to the stress of being the only survivor. Dr. Winnie explained.
How and why now? Why wouldn't it have happened last week or last month? Or any other time since he got here? Why would it happen right now when he was so happy?
Midnight pressed. I don't know. Maybe Princess Twilight's magic was the metaphorical spark to light the fire? Like I said, my knowledge on his species is very limited. As it stands, there are two probable causes we can hypothesize. First, that magic was the cause. Although, since Princess Twilight confirmed she didn't even complete the spell, and he's lived with you for the last 2 months and shown no signs of damage, I'm not entirely convinced that was the cause. And second, that he suffers from acute survivor's guilt, and the stress of living with that for the last 2 months has finally caught up with them. Dr. Winnie reasoned. Midnight sank to her haunches. The pit in her stomach only worsened as the doctor's words swam about in her mind.
So, whether it was magic or just some kind of mental breakdown, how do we help him?
She asked, after several moments of deliberation. I'm not a psychologist by any means, but I think the best move for now would be to confirm which of the two it was. This will be difficult. If the magic is indeed the cause, then scanning for magical damage with the scanner spell could make things worse, Dr. Winnie suggested.
And if the cause is survivor's guilt?
Midnight asked. Usually the way to handle these types of problems is to confront one's guilt and acknowledge that there was nothing they could do. They have to be reminded that it's not their fault.
How do we do that?
Midnight pressed. Well, like I said, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not completely sure. Dr. Winnie admitted. Imagine if this was the slow demise of a human in Equestria. That must suck. Anywho, let's get on to our resilient donators. Top donators are 630, BadassWaffle, Only One Thing, Ceru Orion, IronSky, and Jessie Smith. Matchfic 109, JockeTF, Darkside, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Stu Hex, Sword Brother, Mordred, Omicron, Library, Winsight 9852, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Risehole, Shadow Moon, Luigi 88, Chancer Quest, Big Smoke 369, Bobcat, GGF, Murder Princess, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.